Hi, today we're going to look at how to do a complete database backup and restore using a slightly more advanced configuration. This is a configuration that you're more likely to see in a real-time day-to-day scenario where you would generally have a full backup taken at the beginning of the week, followed by a differential backup every 2 to 3 hours, and a log backup or a transactional log backup every 5 or 10 minutes. And the intention here is that as far as recovery goes, the idea is that you can go ahead and use the full database recovery to restore up till the beginning of the week, and then you can go ahead and use the differential backup to restore till the point in time in the last 2 hours, and after that you can restore log backups to restore data up till the last 5 minutes. So if you're looking at it from an example standpoint, this is what it would look like. Assuming that you've got a full backup, let's say this is week 1, or let's just do this, right? So you got day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like this. If you take a full backup here, you would have the next full backup here at the beginning of the next week, after which you would have differential backups here, and in the same column you would have transactional log backups going on every 5 minutes, like this. So the idea here is that this differential backup happens every 2 hours and the transactional log backups happen every 15 minutes, like this. The idea here is that, say for example, you want to restore, your database crashed on the 6th over here. At this point on the 6th, if you're looking at restoring the database at 2:30 in the morning AM, you technically would have to go ahead and restore this full backup first, followed by the differential backup that was taken at 2 o'clock in the morning, followed by two 15-minute intervals of the transaction log files, which would let you recover to the point of time of 2:30 AM. So when you do this, you've restored data up to the beginning of this week, after which if you restore the differential backup for 2 o'clock in the morning, you've restored the database up till this point in time. And after that, when you restore the 15-minute intervals that you got here, you would take care of the 2:30, where you have the 30 minutes gap between the differential backup and the current timestamp. It should be these two. So this is generally the idea as far as backups and recovery go, and the intention is always to go ahead and make sure that you have as little data loss as possible. So let's go ahead and see how this actually works. I'm going to go ahead and create a database now. And I'm going to go ahead and start inserting some data into this table. Right. So I have some data here. I've got a new database created. I've got a table inside the database and I've inserted one row of data. If you go ahead and look at this, you should see the database here. And if you right click and go to properties as discussed in the previous videos, you should first go ahead and make sure that you have a full recovery model available here. The intention behind the full recovery model is that if it's a full recovery model, then we can actually go ahead and take transaction log backups. So having done that, let's go ahead and now choose tasks backup, and I'm going to remove this and put my own backup here. So I'm going to just go ahead and say SQL 2012 test backup dot back, and I'm using test backups database. I've got full recovery model. I'm using database, not file groups, etc. I'm not using a copy only backup. I don't want to expire the data backup set. Everything else is pretty much the same as what you would see in SQL 2008 as well, 2008 R2 as well. So we're just going to leave it at the defaults at the moment. Important thing to remember here is that I am taking the first full backup, so I'm just going to go ahead and select that, and that's done. Right. So with this, if you go ahead now and look at the actual program files directory, you should find that here we have the database backup taken and present inside the default backup folder. So let's just quickly go ahead and look at that. MS SQL Server 2012. And I've got my test backup created here. So that's good. Now let's go ahead and insert another 100 rows here, and that's done. So if you go ahead and now do select star from test table, you should see that there should be 101 rows inside this table, and there we go. So now let's take a differential backup of this particular database again. All you need to do is come back to backup, select differential. I'm leaving it in the different backup set called test backups differential backup. You can also go ahead and rename it after the same backup that you were using earlier. I'm just going to go ahead and just append. Everything else remains the same. If you look at it, I haven't changed the backup file destination. So technically what happens here is that in addition to the full backup, you'll find now that there is a differential backup added to the same set. So it's done. It's completed much faster than the full backup, because what it's doing here is it's only taking a delta. A delta is basically the difference between the full backup and the current timestamp or the current change set. So what happens here is that unlike transaction log backups, a full backup would contain all of the data. The differential backup would contain all till the time the diff was taken, and the transaction will contain all data for last X interval. And this is pretty much what it is as far as the data is concerned when it's stored inside the differential or in the transaction log backups. All you need to do is restore one full backup, one differential backup, and X number of transaction log backups depending on your recovery interval or your time that you want to go ahead and recover to. So now that we've gone ahead and done that, let's add an additional 100 rows so that we now have two differential backups. So now we should have 201 rows here, and let's take an additional differential backup here. If you look at the contents now, you'll see that I've got one full and one differential, and I'm going to add one more differential to it. So if you look at the contents now, you can see that we've got one full and two differential backups. Now having done this, the next thing that we want to do is we want to go ahead and have transaction log backups for every 15 minutes.